Throughout our discussions, underscored the value of collaboration, our interest in being cooperative partners to one another, and being strong representatives of the people of Northern and Western Canada. So I thank you. I want to thank my colleagues. I truly want to thank my colleagues. It's a great group of folks that have come together, and I think it's just, yeah, it's exceptional. Everybody's coming from much different backgrounds. This doesn't go without saying. This is a very diverse group of individuals, and collectively working to support Canadians in the North and the West, yeah, is been inspiring. So with that, I'll hand it back to Jordan.
Thank you, Premier Pillai. We'll now move on to the question and answer session. A reminder to folks on Zoom, please remember to mute and unmute yourselves if I call on you. I will do my best to get to as many of you as possible, but I ask that in the spirit of getting to as many folks as we can, if you limit yourselves to one question, at least for the beginning. I'll start here in the room with Sarah Exynos from Radio Canada. Okay, come on over.
Okay, do I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Hi. So I do have one question from my colleague in Vancouver. So for Premier AB, were you able to come to an agreement with Premier Danielle Smith on hydrogen? And if so, what are both of your goals?
Thanks. I wanted to thank our host here, Ranj, especially for being willing to wear a tie as the chair. It's not a small sacrifice for Yukon Premier to do that, so I want to thank you for that. You know, there's often a lot of focus on what separates us from Alberta in terms of policy, and as we found in the room today, you heard from the chair. There is so much that we have in common, so many shared goals, and one of them is around the hydrogen sector. We have a broad agreement between our provinces that hydrogen is a key sector that we want to develop. There are some major challenges, but surmountable challenges that need to be overcome in terms of the federal government coming to the table and working with the railways, ensuring community support for the export of hydrogen, and everyone will benefit from it. We are really excited about the potential of hydrogen in our respective provinces, and so there's both been lots for us to collaborate on and shared concerns for us to bring to the federal level to make sure they're at the table to ensure we can realize this new industry for Canada.
And I'll just add that this is a multi-trillion-dollar industry. Already in Alberta, we've got an expertise in developing hydrogen. We produce 2.5 million tons a year. And we're going to produce future tons with zero emissions. There's lots of ways to get to zero emission hydrogen, and it's going to be used for all kinds of uses, for potentially electricity, for home heating, for transportation infrastructure. And I hope that we can work with the federal government on doing First Nations consultation, because I think what we have seen successfully through our Alberta Indigenous Opportunities Corporation is that by having true partnership in equity ownership of some type, that assists us in being able to make sure that communities are compensated appropriately and also can assist in helping us understand some of the accommodations to make around environmental issues. So I think that process is just beginning. I don't want to prejudge how it might end up, but I think that there's a spirit of a collaboration happening between our two provinces and the federal government on that.
Thank you, Premiers. We'll now go to Zoom. Ashley Juneau from the Canadian Press.
Hi, good afternoon. This is a question for the Premier of Manitoba from my colleague. I'm specifically curious with regards to the Prairie Green landfill search. Has the government laid out plans to conduct the search with health and environment measures regarding asbestos and other toxic material?
Today is the last day of the trial of the admitted serial killer. Today is the last day of the trial of the admitted serial killer. And so I want to begin my remarks by expressing the utmost of compassion and empathy for the families and for the late victims of these terrible crimes, some of the worst crimes that we've seen in our province's history. And I always try to put the families first, because what they have been put through is something none of us want to imagine. And it's been made all the more difficult by politicization and a very difficult trial period, and the intense public attention, rightfully so, given the severity of the crimes. But it does have a human impact when there are so many eyes watching a situation like this. And so I want to acknowledge that first and foremost. I also want to acknowledge to the people of Manitoba that I know it's been tough to hear the details that have been coming out of this trial. There's a lot of disturbing information here. And I just want to reiterate to people that even though these are difficult things to hear reported in the media, it is important for us because it helps us to assure the continued public confidence in the administration of justice in our province. And our government has tried to put respect for the judicial process, right there with respect for the families as we've been navigating through this. And so as a result, what I would say is that we have been limited by what we could say publicly up to now by respecting that trial process playing out. That said, with the trial wrapping up today, we will very soon be in a position to speak much more freely. Because I respect the families, the first news that I will share regarding the Prairie Green landfill search will be with those families directly. I can tell you, the public, the media, I can tell you that we've invited the families who are asking for the Prairie Green landfill search to the Manitoba legislature for a meeting tomorrow, where we will share our plans to search the Prairie Green landfill. Once we have had those conversations, tomorrow we will have a significant update for the public about the next steps in that process.
Thank you, Premier. We'll now go to Dennis Lord from Lac Yon.
Bonjour, ma question s'adresse au Premier ministre Simpson. J'aimerais savoir s'il y a eu des discussions avec ses homologues de l'Alberta et de la Saskatchewan, la Colombie-Britannique, concernant les problématiques de bassin versant.
Sir, there's no interpretation in
No
this.
interpreter? Okay.
No,
Thank you.
désolé.
My question is to Premier Simpson. I'd like to know if you have discussion with your partners from Alberta and BC about the problematic of Basin River. The water is low in Northwest Territories, and maybe there's like some source to these problems.
Thank you. Yes, the water in the Northwest Territories is very low. We are in year 3 of a drought that's now an extreme drought, and that's impacting, of course, Alberta. And we're seeing the effects with the wildfires in Alberta and the low water in the Northwest Territories. It's had significant impacts on our ability to ship goods up the river to resupply communities with the essential goods that they need. And the reason for the low water is drought. I don't think it's anything more than that. I know there have been rumors on social media of it could be a variety of different things, but I think this is pretty straightforward. We need rain. We need sustained rainfall. We need sustained snowfall over the next few years to get us out of this drought. Thank you.
Merci pour la question. We'll now go to Richard Zussman from Global BC.
For Premier Eby and Premier Smith, a survey came out today from Angus Reid Institute showing that half of British Columbians between 18 to 34 are considering leaving the province due to affordability issues. We know many of those people are considering Alberta. Have there been any conversations about encouraging people to stay in the provinces in which they are at home, to try to support them? And Premier Smith, how much are you continuing to push towards this Alberta's calling message to get British Columbians to come to your province?
Thanks for the question, Richard. British Columbia is growing at a remarkable rate, an historic rate. We're adding 10,000 people every 37 days to our province. And with that growth, we're facing some pretty major pressures. And one group that I am worried about is young people, making sure that they feel welcome, that they can build a good home in British Columbia. That's why we focused on affordability for young people. That's why housing is our major government priority. That is the big challenge for young people, actually attainable middle-income housing that people can see a future for themselves, where they can actually own a home in our province is front and center. Tough conversations with municipalities about what they need to do to allow the kind of housing people can afford, using public land to build the housing that people need. And I know this group is under huge pressure. That's why they're a central focus of us. I'll also add, I guess, Richard, a little bit of frustration I saw today $750 million for Quebec to deal with immigration pressures from the federal government. They've offered us nothing, $0. With 10,000 people coming to our province every 37 days, we have right now refugees and homeless shelters. We have international students grappling with a lack of supports in the community. We've had to take really significant steps to address some of the problems that we've seen in that sector. And we see rampant abuse of the federal labor market program, where people are buying and selling it without repercussion for tens of thousands of dollars. And so to see a single province agreement with Quebec is an underlining of a sense of frustration that I heard around the table. And I won't put this on anyone else, but I'll say for British Columbia, how frustrated we are to see the money being showered down on Quebec and Ontario, and us scrabbling around for what's left over. It's not acceptable. It is not okay. And part of the pressure that these young people are seeing is a lot of federal resource, time and energy, money, tax credits, effort going to those two provinces at the expense, in my opinion, of the West. And it needs to change. That announcement today with Quebec, frankly, is the straw that broke this camel's back. I cannot understand how that could happen. I cannot understand why we cannot get a per capita share at a minimum, and with the territories at the table, an understanding that a base plus per capita for them is so critically important. But for BC, just on a population basis, just the same consideration as those provinces. And I look forward to the call from the Prime Minister to share with us the details of their immigration funding for British Columbia on a per capita basis, the exact same as Quebec got today.
When we began our Alberta's Calling campaign, we had suffered through 13 quarters of net out migration to our province, and we were just turning the corner on needing a large influx of skilled labor to come to our province to help us grow. For instance, the Dow petrochemical project is going to need 6,000 to 8,000 workers. I don't think that we anticipated that we would be as successful in that campaign as we were last year. We've had over 200,000 people come into Alberta last year. Many of them are newcomers to Canada. In the past, we would see newcomers come typically to Toronto, Montreal, and Vancouver. We're now seeing more than 20% of newcomers choosing our province, which we embrace. We think it's really important that people find that Alberta is a place to find a home, start a business, raise a family, find good work. That being said, we also are host to 70,000 of the newcomers from Ukraine, the Ukrainian evacuees, and we have not seen the same kind of support for those new arrivals in the same way that Premier Eby has talked about. In addition, we've been asking for an increase in our provincial nominee allotment that allows for us to be able to give a pathway to permanent immigration to those who have come to our province, found a job, found a community of support, and want to stay. And the federal government not only didn't increase the amount we'd asked for, they decreased us. And I think that's a common story as well from the other premiers. So it does seem to me they need to give us the tools. If they want us to be able to settle newcomers, then they need to support us with the finances to do that. And if they want us to be able to make sure that newcomers are being matched to the jobs that are available in our economies, then they've got to give us more latitude to do that. We certainly want to keep the doors open in Alberta. We have a lot of construction that we need to do. We've narrowed our Alberta's Calling campaign to focus on the skilled building trades, because we do have a lot of construction that we need to do in the commercial space, which will benefit all of the country. When we do well, we know that we have high-paid employees who pay personal income tax to Ottawa. We've got corporations, when they're profitable, that pay corporate income tax to Ottawa. Everyone benefits from that. So we want to make sure that we are properly supporting the people coming to our province and our economy, so that we can also make sure that the rest of the country is supported as well. But it is a two-way street.
Thank you, Premier. We'll now go to back in the room to Julian Gignac from CBC.
Hi, I've got a question for Premier Rank Pillai and David Eby. I'm just wondering if a grid tie among our jurisdictions here was discussed, and if so, if there's any update there.
I think it was more than that. I mean, there's been a constant dialogue between the Yukon and British Columbia on the opportunity to work together. I think I've been very open in sharing that we have an application into NRCan to the federal government under their critical minerals funding pot. And from the start, we never wanted to put any financial pressure on British Columbia. They have a lot of projects that Premier can speak to himself that they're working on. So we're waiting to hear what the response is, and then we can move forward. But I think more importantly, we had an opportunity yesterday as well to hear from the president of the Business Council of Canada, and there's so much untapped opportunity, and it's really grounded in working first and foremost with Indigenous governments and development corporations across the North and the West. We understand Indigenous reconciliation. We understand economic reconciliation, and that is the foundation. And on top of that, it's not just about the potential grid connection that we want to see happen between Yukon and BC. There is so many opportunities. Everybody at this table can tell you of a multitude of projects. So we're going to move forward with a more formalized agreement on that work together. And we think it's important that Canada understands, the federal government understands that we need support for these projects. We need to get back to a place where nation building investment happens. It's not there. We don't see, we just don't see the support that we need when it comes to the projects. And I'm gonna open it up to my colleagues, because it's more than just that grid tie. Every one of our governments has a list of really significant projects, and pretty much all of them bring at least one or two of these jurisdictions together to be able to bring goods to market and to support the quality of life of our constituents. So I'll open up to others that may want to speak to this. And David.
Thanks. Raj and I have had a number of discussions about the significant potential of our respective jurisdictions working more closely on electricity. And it's not just us. As Raj said, it was around the table. How do we coordinate better, ensuring distribution of electricity and generation of electricity, particularly zero emission electricity? And we all, I think, around the table agreed that electricity is going to be a major driver for most of our economies going forward, that as much electricity as we can generate, there's economic opportunity for. And it's quite an exciting time, but it's also a frustrating time, because this is a sector that, at least in British Columbia, was previously structured to respond to demand after it's already there, as opposed to build it out in advance to create economic opportunity. So we've been working to turn that around. And part of that opportunity we see in BC is supporting our neighbors wherever we can. If Alberta has need, if Yukon has need, and we can support, we want to do that, because it means jobs for British Columbians. It means we're growing the regional economy as well, and we all benefit from that.
Any other premiers wishing to add on to that question? All right. We'll move back onto Zoom. I see CBC Nunavut with a hand up. CBC Nunavut, you're muted if you're trying to ask a question. Okay. You can ask for them. Okay.
Yeah, Premier Akeeagok, I'm just wondering if you can unpack some of the highlights of the meeting today.
Yeah, first off, I just want to say thank you so much to Raj for hosting us. It's been incredible to meet folks from here. It's been so warm, welcome, that we've been so welcomed here. So I just wanted to first say that. It's been incredible to see all the challenges, but also the opportunities from all the way from Nunavut right here into the Yukon. So the key one I really saw that really touches us is the discussions around Arctic security and sovereignty, and the importance that these are incredible nation building opportunities we do see. And the support we've received from our friends here around the table to see that roll out, and the importance of seeing those infrastructures unlocked, and that it supports vibrant communities in our jurisdictions. We all have the different needs, but specifically from the lens of Nunavut, I really see infrastructure gap that we need to close. whether it's discussing the incredible Grays Bay Road and Port project that could unlock both the critical minerals, but also serve sovereignty reasons is one, or whether it's the Akeeagok hydro and fiber link that we've talked about, which really is that nation building project that could unlock finally from coast to coast to coast an opportunity to connect us all as one. So really those are the two key areas I saw. But I just want to say it's been incredible to show, to see the unity from all different stripes we carry as a consensus government ourselves. Our ability to be able to connect and to be able to work and to really push for Canada to unite. And I think there's so much potential here in terms of the discussions we've had so far, from energy to critical infrastructure that serves those purposes. So,
Can I just have you repeat that in Inuktitut, please?
yeah. Alan, ako yan naman zuwat ng matavane sibod lupa metan na tunga sip tito zuwat si mama tavunga pekativon Mr. Pillai tavane aswalo mappinga tite watta tunga sip tito pregatta tavane katimagiato si madluta pimar zuan katimaguta khasimaгаtta kanno takwa akangilero te watta si mayon kisena kai kanno makipadlagun nagotigo pidjutigidlutigo tunga vegidlutigo Juvias Piatunga Takua, Adjiging it to Kigatu Igalwathuka, Tamakua, Pilgari Yavon, Hano, Kanata, Sivum, Kajusiti Gunangi Kalwa Mangatigun, Naminole, Ayato Dwasimala Wata, Kano, Tana, Nunavume, Ikajokata Gunang Kalwa Mangata, Piluanguatume, Takua, Ukio Tatu Ulwanatumengi Kalwa Mangan. Kano tamakua ko yun sakit padliagun na dyan kalwa mga tatunga vigidlutigon asuwarin nakatigon tayo na Grace Bay ngon raktaw yung tulat tabi umato tao tuwari yaw si mamat inun awla tao dun taan na tao tuwari katigon mapto si padliagun na nangin tako nga pimakot sa ngon natin amatay na kivadlong me ukalagayo tamakua tamadya sakyaron ng mata at tuwin na lutita ko nung pekan na kaya ka at tuwan na katuwin na wata kanata wata po ikaw kaya kangin na tataan na kanata sana yaw si maman tawang Newfoundland Labrador may tabong abisi mo kasi yan ito na ukyok takto po ikaw tayo si magyakangin lataman sana yaw wadlian natin ligo kanata so kubesip siya pong tabang tungwasip to tayo si magatan.
Thank you, Premier. Noting the time and knowing that many premiers have a flight to catch, I would like to thank you all for joining today's press conference. For those of you on the Zoom call who were not able to get a question in, I'd encourage you to reach out to your provincial or territorial spokespeople to set something up. Have a great afternoon.